Okay, now we're going to start with the step 3, which is a kind of a lavender model. This is after we do our blue undertones and after we do all of our veining. So this is your third step. This is a mixture of just the purple, like a light purple Genesis paint. And you have to mix it with the paint thinner, this Mona Lisa, until it's kind of a thicker texture. This is some of our thickest paints that we used. It has to be able to stick to the vinyl. If you try out a sample piece and you don't see purple, a little bit of purple, you don't want crazy a lot of purple. If you don't see it, then you need to add more paint. All right, so we're going to start in the back of the head so that we don't make any, I never start on the face because you can't, sometimes it's hard to fix that kind of stuff. So we'll start on the back of the head. I have the blue sponge left over, so I'm going to tip it up on that. We're going to take a couple of dips with our sponge that I've plucked. This is a sponge I've had for a million years, and I will be very sad if I ever have to go through and start a new sponge because this is my favorite one. So we stamp a couple of times, get the sponge loaded up, and very carefully, we don't push too hard. You kind of puzzle piece it on here so it's not the same exact direction on everything. And you can see with the little holes, there's a couple of hairs on here that are irritating me, so I'm going to flick those little boogers off. And after a few minutes, you'll have not enough paint on your sponge, so you're going to re-dip and start again. This gives me the most even modeling compared to like the sponges that come with holes in them. I've tried all kinds of things like that and all kinds of different textures that you could put on them, and this, I still come back to this because this is just what works, what looks most realistic. You don't want too big of holes in your sponge, so when you pluck it, it's just a pair of cuticle cutters or tweezers. You want them evenly spaced, and you want your edges not to be flat on there. Otherwise you'll be able to see the edge of the sponge mark as you model down. And very carefully go around the ears. Go over the top of the ears, as much into the ears as you can. It's not going to really show up as modeling, but it will add color to those areas that we have to build up over time as well. Occasionally you'll see little flecks of dirt. You just flick those off as you find them. This kit was washed before I started, but you never know where the little dirt particles come from. It's just a little dust particle from floating around. You never know where they pick them up. Alright, so we're almost done with the back of the head and the sides of the head, and then we'll be able to move on to the face. As this dries, you'll be able to see it kind of sinks into the vinyl, and it causes the depth of the skin. So this is just the first color. If we only stopped with this color, our baby would probably look a little dusky and need a little bit of oxygen. So this is the first color that we add to build up those small layers of life. Gently across the nose. Across the top of the lip. Tip of the nose. Around the lips. I'm not going to actually touch the lips as much as possible. I want them to be kind of left untouched because I will add my own colors to those in a little bit. Alright, so I don't see any big gaping holes. We're going to come in with a sponge This is one of my older blending sponges. It looks kind of gnarly and all kind of colors on it, but it's clean, and we just tap this around the edges and it helps to blend in anything that might build up in the creases. It helps to get off any of those little silly flecks that manage to cling even after they've been washed. Alright, so the head is done. You just go through all of your different layers, just like you would, like we did with the head. Right over the top of the back of the hands. The tips of the fingers will get some. I try not to put too much in the palms because it kind of leaves a lot of crease marks if you're not careful. Pardon my boo-boos. I was out working with the pigs yesterday and managed to get scraped up. And some people will tell you that you need to bake in between every single layer, but I find that it's not the healthiest for your vinyl if you cook it every single time. Your vinyl loses some of its structural soundness every time you heat it up. And so I have a general rule that I only cook in between a model or after a layer of like a whole wash where you're washing the whole thing with one color. Because if you build up too many, like if I put a wash over this mottling, it'll wipe off my mottling. So the mottling has to get cooked on before I can do any other layers. And then it has to be cooled completely before I can start anything else. And that is the reason I actually make more than one baby at a time. One is cooling and I'm working on another. One is cooking, one is cooling, one is being worked on. So I usually go through 3 babies at a time. And that just works best for me. I don't like being bored, and so when I have nothing to do, it drives me crazy. Pardon the noise in the background. We have crazy kittens that think it's fun to play with noisy objects. Okay, so you'll go through each of your limbs until they're all completely done. We're not going to cook after this layer because we have more mottling to do on different layers. So we're going to wait and cook until after all 3 layers of mottling are done. So come back for the next layer of mottling, finish your other limbs until everything is finished mottling, and we'll come back to see the next layer, which is kind of a mauve-y color mottling. All right, I'll see you soon.